Hey guys, welcome to Ask CFE. We are live right now. We're going to be taking your questions. We had a live stream yesterday, but this one is for our friends on the other side of the globe that may have missed our live event yesterday. So we are live on Facebook as well as YouTube. So joincfe.com/Facebook or joincfe.com/YouTube. So we're going to be answering your questions. We're going to be going through the code stuff that you're working on. And we're going to give it a few minutes because, well, basically, we just went live. This was completely unannounced, and we just really wanted to interact with you guys on any form or fashion. So if you have questions, please submit them either on Facebook, so joincfe.com/Facebook, or on our YouTube stream, and that's joincfe.com/YouTube. We're taking any and all of your questions. And again, this is Ask CFE. That is Ask Coding for Entrepreneurs your questions because we're going to be going through them. So one of the things that I'm super passionate about is like what's happening next and where are we going from here. What we'll see is we're going to start to see a lot more automation happen. So the automation that we've already seen is just a fraction of what's really coming, and it's super exciting. So I read an article today from TechCrunch talking about how automation is going to change the way we have our cars work. So like delivery trucks and automobiles that way. Again, and we are live at answering your questions. Right now, I'm just going to basically talk about the things that I'm super interested in, and until you guys start asking the questions that are related to things that you really want to see. So back to that like automation stuff, we are seeing a big shift into what's going to happen with jobs. So what happens with jobs like drivers? So if autonomous vehicles come out, what's going to happen to these drivers and where are they going to go? Are they going to be actually provided with a new type of career path, or are they going to have to change? And that's what's something so excited about us as coders is this is something we have to think about as well, is when new software comes out, do we adapt with that new software? Do we change, or do we stick with what we know and really not update and change to the things that we know? All right, guys, so we are here answering questions for you guys. So if you have any questions, please feel free to submit them. That's what we're here for. We want to answer these questions for you, especially because we missed some of you guys yesterday that are on the other side of the globe. So this is just a live event that we're going to be handling. And we're going to be on here as just for a few minutes if we don't get any solid questions answered or asked for that matter. So if you're on here, definitely ask us some questions. Again, we have a few people on right now. So I see that there are some of you. Please ask a question because we would love to answer them for you. Something I'm really excited about that we're working on is the blog API project. So if you're a member on Coding for Entrepreneurs, you can actually get early access to that blog API project. We've added so much stuff to it already. It's really exciting time to do all of those things. Looks like our YouTube might be buffering. We got a question over here on YouTube. You've learned so much with our tutorials. Thanks so much, and thanks for jumping in to the live stream. Looks like we had a little bit of buffering thing, but please ask us your questions. That's what we're here for. We want to answer questions that you may have, especially the few of you that are watching right now. So I was getting into the fact that we are releasing a blog API service. It's really exciting because the future of what we'll see with our own apps is connecting with other apps and building really strong and powerful products that allow us to interact on a whole new scale, which is pretty cool. So yeah, we're answering your questions. That's what we're here for. We want to answer any questions that you guys have that are related to whether it's coding or entrepreneurship or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in to codingforentrepreneurs.com and see if there's questions on there that I can just talk about while you guys are here. Okay, so I'm going to go into the question feed here. And so we got something that is testing. So somebody asked us about what about testing. So what is testing involved with? And there's a few different ways on how you can actually test. You can write code tests, which code tests, what they do is it goes through and it will actually test your code emulating various things. It's something that's really interesting to look at. There's a good book called Two Scoops of Django, which actually goes into testing and gives a lot of reasons as to why you should do it. There's also a lot of blog articles related to that specifically. The other part of it is we test our code in the actual usage of it, and we do it from a user's point of view. Now, testing the code by writing actual tests, that's actually something very important, and I highly recommend something that you do. But again, guys, we are here answering your questions. So if you do have any questions, please shoot those to us, because that's what this live stream is all about. It's for you guys. We want to answer your questions and get those things answered, so you can build your projects and launch things better, faster, and to hopefully just a smarter degree, instead of taking a ton of time trying to build something that might not be worth it, or getting that experience that you need when it comes to actually building web applications. Okay, so if you guys have questions, please answer them. I feel like I'm going in circles. All right, let's get back to like what I'm super interested in, and that's automation. So when it comes to actually building things, you want to think in terms of how can you automate this? How can you build software to solve problems that shouldn't be solved any other way, right? So like in the case of like answering emails, for example, you can actually go through a process and training somebody to answer emails for you. That's one way. You can go through a software that kind of parses this email for you. That means it kind of reads the subjects and gives you responses. And then another way would be to do a combination of both, and then on top of that, answering those emails as much as you can yourself. Vincent Chow, do you have experience with Selenium for testing? Haven't used Selenium myself. Thanks for the question. I haven't. How about you? I mean, have you heard things about it? That is something that is very interesting. I'm going to have to look into that a little bit more. Thanks for the question, Vincent. Again, guys, we are here answering your questions. So we realized that we missed the other half of the globe yesterday by doing it at 1 p.m. So we wanted to give you guys a chance that are on the other side of the globe to jump in and ask questions too. So that's what we're here for, and that's what we're doing. If we don't get any questions, we're going to stop the live stream soon, and that's actually probably what's going to happen. Vincent, do you have any other questions that you need answered? If not, this is going to be a quick live stream, which is cool. I mean, hey, if you guys don't have questions, I'm going to get back to building more content. So that's probably what's going to end up happening. Okay, so can you recommend something like CFE Only More Biz Dev for coders? That's a good question. So are you saying that you want to see like entrepreneurial type things that are like step-by-step for coders? That's a good question, Vincent. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of really good talks that are entrepreneurial related. So recommend resources for entrepreneurship. I mean, you can ask me questions. I love entrepreneurship. That's what I'm about. I mean, it is called Coding for Entrepreneurs for a reason. Entrepreneur is something that I've identified with for a very, very long time, and the coding part just is something that helped me get there, which is awesome. That's something that's really cool about entrepreneurship and coding in general. But as far as resources are concerned, I love reading Seth Godin. He's like a really thought-provoking author as well as speaker. As far as an entrepreneur is concerned, he's a really, really cool guy. Gary Vaynerchuk, he's very intense. Like, I mean, he takes my intensity to a whole nother level. And he's just very open and just very honest with who he is, and shares those thoughts with the people that follow him. And he's a very intense guy. So I recommend checking his thoughts out too. He's doing a lot more stuff with social media and live and all of these things that you might consider checking out. Another guy would be that I really like is Paul Orfalea. He's the founder of Kinko's. I was actually studied with him, and he's a really, really cool guy. Reading his book, I think it's called A Billion in Nickels. It's a very interesting story. So my take on entrepreneurship in many ways is reading lessons from people that have come before and applying those lessons into the project or the system that I'm working on. So like those are some good resources. But as far as like step-by-step stuff, entrepreneurship is more of like, it's really hard to say step-by-step this is how it happens, because various projects or various businesses will be successful regardless of the steps that they take, right? So a lot of people, or a lot of things that you might hear is a business plan fails like almost right away. So as soon as you finish writing a business plan, it fails. So the suggestion is to not write a business plan. Actually, a really good book, and this is the last I'll say on this subject, unless you guys ask more questions about it. A really good book is 37 Signals, their book called Rework. That's really good for thinking about entrepreneurship in terms of building value and building things for your customers and stuff like that. So there's that one. Anyways, let's jump back into some more questions that we have on YouTube. I'm developing a web app that doesn't really have a way to be sold. I'm continuing to work on it and people continue to use it. Should I keep going and figure out how to sell it later? So you're trying to sell your website, you're building a web application or some sort of website and you want to figure out how to sell it. Well, the main thing here is you have to figure out how to provide value to the world before you can turn around and try and sell something. And that's true about a website as true it is about a product or an idea. So you really have to provide value first before you can consider even selling it. So I don't know if you should keep going or not, because I have no idea what it's all about. So I would say figure out how to solve a problem, provide value for people so they can really just see the business that you're working on or the website that you're working on as a valuable item that you could actually sell. Because just because you made a website doesn't mean that it's valuable. So there's that. Okay, so what are good testing emulators for Android? Sorry, I don't actually work in Android very much, so I don't have any suggestions there. I'm sure there's stuff that you can Google quite a bit, and there are a lot of Android developers that you could probably ask. Quora.com is a really good question and answer site that you could probably ask this question to and get direct feedback from an actual Android developer. D Barber, you're welcome, man. D Borbu, is that your name? You're very welcome. Definitely interested in hearing more if you have other questions in relation to selling stuff. Let's see, Vincent Chow, do you follow some blogs, magazines, podcasts? So as far as blogs are concerned, yeah, Seth Godin's blog is one of them that I read on a fairly often basis. I don't actually subscribe to blogs. I choose when not to read them. As far as podcasts are concerned, I listen to Tim Ferriss's podcast every once in a while, or the Tim Ferriss Show. Tim Ferriss is another guy that you should check out for the entrepreneurial area. His book 4 Hour Workweek will hopefully help do a little bit of a mind shift of what you really want out of life. But there's some things in there that I wouldn't necessarily recommend. Let's see, magazines. Not really. Don't really read magazines. Entrepreneur Magazine has been good in the past, but I more read their website, Inc. as well. TechCrunch, I read a lot. I read that fairly often. Let's see. Can you do a video on shooting video? Maybe you can talk about your setup, tricks, and tips. Okay. Yeah, I mean, a video about shooting video, it depends on what kind of video you're talking about. So like what we're doing right now, I actually have 3 cameras going. One is a Facebook live stream, one is for YouTube, and the other one is going to be a solid recording that we'll actually use in place of all those things on our website as well as on YouTube. So the live stream is what I'm looking at right now. This recording is going to be high res. It's going to be a lot better, because the other live stream that we did, the quality of it just didn't look that great. So I definitely wanted to use what I use for a lot of those intros. Very simple. But as far as shooting video, there's definitely a lot of photographers out there that do discuss on how to shoot video, whether it's behind a backlight or something like that. Really all you need is some pretty solid lighting, and then also the composition being pretty good. But I don't even think I shoot video that great. The camera does most of the work, depending on which camera you're looking at, of course. So how do I test the website that you're developing? How do you test the security of your website specifically? Well, Django developers, the core developers, if you're working with Django, already do a lot of that testing for you. So you can be pretty assured that Django itself is very secure. Now, one of the things that you will want to think about is what you're doing with the things that you should be keeping secret. That is your secret key, your database passwords, any sort of passwords. Those are the things that you definitely want to make sure that you keep secret. And depending on what platform you're using, you're going to put those things into environment variables and making sure that they're like kind of stored away so that you're keeping it secure on that end. But Django itself is a very secure framework, and there's a lot of stuff that they've written about to make sure that they are extra secure. So definitely check out Django's documentation if you want to know more about security there. Most of the modern web frameworks have really high level security, but the things where you might have flaws are what kind of passwords you use to, have your like your server. So whatever server passwords you're using, if you are using very simple ones, that is a flaw in of itself. So you want to make sure that those passwords are fairly long and fairly complex. It doesn't mean that it's hard to memorize for you, but for somebody else to hack and break it, that's something that you're really going to want to consider. Let's see. Top debugging tips or tools you cannot live without. That's a good question. I really like, just hard coding the tests that you have on your own projects. It's not something we've covered a whole lot on CFE because it's much more about just building something real. So the tests themselves, so hard coding tests is definitely the best way to debug things. But Google Chrome is also really good for a lot of the stuff, especially debugging the front end things. So the things that we'll eventually get into, it's really good for those things. And I would also say that, like, if you took a look at Sublime Text, that has a lot of like syntax checking stuff, but Django itself has a lot of default bug checks as well, which that's a great tool. So Django itself is a really good tool that I could not live without probably. Let's see, why is the ecom code, which is in your Udemy Django training, not available on YouTube? So why do I have Udemy stuff that's not on YouTube? Well, we have all of our stuff on joincfe.com. So that's definitely where everything is. YouTube itself is like, we have some introductory stuff on YouTube and then more in-depth stuff on joincfe.com or codingforentrepreneurs.com. So that's where all of our stuff is for the most part. But we are doing a lot more stuff on YouTube, and this is a really good example of that. And for you Facebook Live people, this is an example for that as well. Again, we're taking your questions, and we're in two places. We're on YouTube as well as Facebook. So joincfe.com/YouTube, all lowercase, as well as joincfe.com/Facebook. We're in both places. So ask questions in either place, and we will definitely answer them for you. Cool. Thanks for the questions so far, guys. Vincent Chow, most useful Django apps. The Django Rust framework, that's one. Django Crispy Forms, that's another one. Django Channels is a new one. It's for real-time apps, stuff that I've been playing around with a little bit, but nothing solid quite yet as far as a project is concerned. But it is pretty cool. That is going to be a very useful app in the future. I believe it's going to be built into the core of Django in 1.10. Let's see, what else? I'm trying to think. Python Request is another one that's really good, but that's not exactly a Django app. I build a lot of my own Django apps too, so I end up using and reading through a lot of the other ones. Those are the ones that come to mind right now. If I think of anything else, I'll definitely let you know. Thanks, Vincent. Now, we've got somebody from Russia. Hey, how's it going? I don't actually know how to say your name, so if you could write it out, I would love to say hello back. Hi from California. What about distributed task queue tools, Celery? Celery is actually really good, and that's another one. Vincent, that's another one to use. Do you use it for Django projects, and what use case will it be used? So this is when you want to like delay tasks from happening from the main process of Django. This is something that's really good for like billing, like if you have a successful transaction, you send an email and you use Celery later to do that. It's also really good for like notifying, so notifications. So if you have, which is another thing of billing, if you have, let's say for instance, you have a comment list and somebody makes a comment and you want to notify the other people, that's another place for using Celery. There's a lot of different use cases. I'm pretty sure they probably have a lot of examples on their site because they definitely like doing it. Vincent, South for automating database migrations. South is no longer needed. That's for versions of Django before version 1.7, I believe it is. It might have even been 1.6. Now migrations are built into Django, so South is no longer relevant. It's no longer something that we end up needing. South is just gone. It's not needed. It's cool. Because the Django developers are awesome, and they look at very popular packages that may need to actually be in the Django framework. Some of them are removed from it, some of them are added. Migrations was one of those things that really needed to be added, and it was. And now South is no more, so you just use in make migrations and migrate, which is default from Django. If you're not familiar with that, definitely check out Try Django 1.8 because that will show you how to do it. That's on our YouTube channel, joincfa.com/YouTube. Cool. So more questions, guys. That's what we're here for. We're here to answer your questions. We see that there's a few of you on here. So definitely ask any questions that you may have. This is really your opportunity to do it. And we are here doing live events specifically for that. We could be recording content, but instead we're here chatting with you guys, hopefully answering some questions that you have. And so far there have been some pretty good ones. So like back into the entrepreneurial thing, if you are wanting to start a project and you're kind of like delaying it because you want to get like all your ducks in a row, or you want to make sure that you know everything about a specific area, well, what you're going to want to do is, instead of trying to research everything that you possibly can, you should just start building value. Like find something that you're interested in and start building something for it. So like say for instance, you are very, very interested in rock climbing. I'm very interested in rock climbing, and you wanted to build a blog about it. Well, you don't have to research everything about it. Instead, what you could do is start finding content that you find interesting and put it on your blog, and then be kind of like a curator, and then give your own thoughts. Maybe find some videos that are cool and do that stuff, and then just really start adding value to anyone who may or may not watch or want to read your blog or your videos and stuff like that. Like for Coding for Entrepreneurs, for example, when we started, when it started a few years back, I didn't like research a bunch of stuff. I just was like, okay, well, coding is something I'm very interested in. It's really cool. And I just launched my first course and put it out there. And, slowly it started to, rather quickly it started to gain some traction. And now we are here a few years later. And it's been pretty fun. And really now it's just about continuing to give you guys stuff that you need to make your project happen, because that's what it's all about. Okay, so Vincent Chow, how can you promote your website? There's so many different ways on how to do this, about promoting your website and attracting an audience. I'd say video, making a ton of video that provides a lot of value, or basically just a lot of content. So if you aren't that great with video, then definitely write stuff or do some sort of content that is really getting whatever it is that you're building out there. Another thing is doing blog posts or guest blog posts on another blogger or another videographer or another YouTube channel, trying to hit them up and providing them with a lot of value so that they have more content to give to their followers and watchers and stuff like that. Okay, so I got another question. Udemy is where I and my team working from India started learning Django. Need to ask you if you have some Python tutorials, if it is in Udemy or Join CFE or YouTube. We have some Python stuff, and it is joincfe.com/YouTube. So you can do it on YouTube or joincfe.com. So codingforentrepreneurs.com definitely has some YouTube, free Python stuff. We are working on a new series called 30 Days of Python. We're still doing a lot of research and development on that, but it is something that we are very interested in and helping you guys with on the basic level of Python. But we do have some really cool stuff like web scraping with Python. That is like one of our more popular videos on YouTube. That is something that's pretty cool. So definitely check that out if you haven't seen it already. All right, guys, we are here answering questions for you guys. If you have any more questions, please let us know. This is what we're doing it for. We want to answer your questions. Because it's really all about just getting your projects up and going. That's what it's all about. And if it means that you have to learn more code, perfect. If it means that you need some advice on like where you need to go with your project, that's okay too. That's what we're here for. We want to help you think through the things that you need to do to build your project and make it happen faster, hopefully. All right, so looks like we are going slow on the questions. Again, if you guys have questions, let us know. Otherwise, looks like we're going to be wrapping this up pretty soon. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. I am definitely going to be doing a lot more of these. I know it's like still early and like trying to figure out a footing exactly the best way to do live events, whether it's to tell you guys about it in advance or to just do it. In this case, we are going to be doing it. Sumya, I think that's your name. I apologize if I mispronounced it. Thank you for joining. So excited to have you. And welcome to Coding for Entrepreneurs. It's pretty cool. Yeah, so did you literally just join just now from watching this? Or what? Sumya, please tell me that. I'm really interested because yeah. Hopefully you can do this Q&A once a month. King Ho, or sorry, I skipped someone. D Borbu, I believe that was your name. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. It's awesome. Like, it's really cool that you came and checked it out. King Ho, as far as Q&A once a month, it might actually be more often than that. This week we've already done 2. This one was literally for the other half of the world. Like yesterday we did one at 1 p.m. on the Pacific side, and that is, well, not ideal for a lot of you guys that live in a different part of the world. So that's why we're here doing it now. Vincent Cho, good web host. Depends on what your budget is. If you're more on the very budgeted side, Webfaction is really good. It's like $10 a month, but they have a great support team too. So if you run into server type errors, they will definitely help you there. I know because I have personal experience there. They are an affiliate of mine, and I have some deal somewhere for them. Webfaction is pretty cool on the basic side. If you're moving up a little bit, Heroku is a little bit more expensive, but it is a very solid system. But they use Amazon Web Services, so it's not like they're their own host. So Amazon Web Services would be the next tier, but setting up Amazon Web Services is a little bit more challenging than it is than like Heroku or Webfaction. I think Webfaction is Heroku is probably the easiest if you know how to do Git. Webfaction's the easiest if you're really familiar with using FTP and SSH. So hopefully that answers your question. The reason I'm looking this way is to read the questions. My computer screen's right here, if you were curious at all. King Ho, haha, 5 p.m. in Australia. Is that right? King Ho, you're from Australia. Cool. Sumya, I am in your training from Udemy, and then I learned so much from Django. Now after that, you said Python 30 days coming up. Join CFE, went, so I joined. That's awesome. Thanks for joining, man. That's so cool. Yeah, I mean, there's like 15 people watching right now, and you just joined. How cool is that? But that's what this is all about. That's why I'm here. I'm here to answer questions for you guys. And yeah, cool. You definitely, sorry, the question was, or the statement was, thanks for giving a head start. We'll follow YouTube and join CFE. That's awesome. That's what you should do. YouTube has a lot of content on there that you can really get started with. And that was really the point. JoinCFE.com is to really get much more in depth. And then these things are to answer questions that you might have, so we can, make all of that stuff better for you guys. Are there more questions? Please ask them now, because we are going to be wrapping up very, very soon. I am very appreciative of you guys coming out and taking and watching this. Thanks so much. It does mean a lot, especially like off the cusp like this. It's not something that we really planned. It was just like, hey, this would be a good time to actually just have a Q&A for you guys, especially those of you who are on the other side of the globe. So any questions that you have, please ask them now, because we are not going to be around tonight very much longer, or today, depending on where you are in the world. This is going to be closing up soon. Vincent Chow, is it very difficult to upgrade Django versions? Well, that depends on what version you're coming from. If you're saying from 1.8 to 1.9, no, it's not very difficult. There's just slight changes, and Django gives you a ton of warnings as to how to change it. Wow, you actually said from 1.8 to 1.9. That's pretty cool. But yeah, 1.8 is an LTS release, which means it's long-term support, meaning 1.8 will have support for it from the Django core developers longer than 1.9 will. So it might be a good idea to stick with 1.8 until the next LTS. Unless, of course, you're wanting the absolute latest cutting edge stuff, which is overall minor, but there is some major stuff. It's not like hugely major, but as far as Django is concerned, 1.8 from 1.9, very, very similar versions. But again, there are some minor improvements and also some major improvements with just the general workflow of Django. But those are the things that you want to read about in the release notes that they have for each version. But as far as switching over, it's usually very easy. Now, if you're going to say I'm coming from 1.4 to 1.9, that would be probably pretty challenging. Okay, so body to PGL. You said, I'd like to ask you, I want to learn Django. Where can I find a mentor? I really need one. I love programming, but I need some help. That's a great question. Well, I would say that this could be a form for having a mentor. I mean, you could ask me questions right now, and I would love to give them to you, or give you answers, or at least the best I can. As far as like learning more about Django, YouTube, I mean, like our channel has a lot of stuff on it. JoinCFE.com also has a lot more in-depth stuff. That is a really good place to start. So if you haven't started there yet, then that's my advice to you as a virtual mentor. I mean, go start on our YouTube channel, which is joincfe.com/YouTube, and go through any and all Django stuff there. Even if it's an old version of Django, there's still a lot of the concepts are very, very valid to this day. So that's what I'd say, body to PGL. Thanks for the question. Cool. So we have a question from Facebook, or a comment, I should say. Joshua, dude, I can't give you enough thanks. Hey, thanks so much for watching, man. I am so stoked that you were able to build the business that you built, or the website that you built, maplop.com. Sweet. Pretty much followed your step-by-step. Hey, thanks a lot for watching, man. Really appreciate it. Any questions you got there? Let us know. Okay, so Sumya, will we begin an update for the next Q&A session so we can learn to be prepared with some questions, basically. Just did some stuff from the blog, sample, basic e-commerce stuff. Just learned it. Hopefully next time to have some questions. Yeah, so the last one we did, which was yesterday at 1 p.m., we definitely announced it in advance, and that was for all of the members, or the people that are like free or enrolled members on codingforentrepreneurs.com. So if you joined codingforentrepreneurs.com, a free account or an enrolled account, you definitely would have gotten that email. So if you want the email in the future, check out there. Otherwise, just make sure that you're subscribed either on facebook.com or so joincfe.com/Facebook, or on YouTube. We're doing both at the same time right now. So we have people on Facebook and we have people on YouTube. So if you want to know about the next one, just jump right in. Hopefully we'll have them fairly often. This is something that I'm really, really interested in doing a lot more of, because I think it helps you guys a lot to hear from me directly. There's something else that we've been talking about, is doing some live coding, so you can actually see me code, ask questions in a very similar manner, but actually just jump in and actually see a live session of coding, or even solving a problem that you may have. If that's something you guys are interested in, whether you're watching this video live or not, definitely comment below or upvote it on joincfe.com/suggest. For those of you who don't know, joincfe.com/suggest is a place where you can upvote or give your suggestions to things that you want to see us do. And live coding examples would be one of them. Vincent, what is the story, or what's the story behind Coding for Entrepreneurs? Well, that's going to go into more of a broad story of behind, like my story a little bit. So I'll give you kind of the gist of it. A long time ago, I started a business, and I knew how to do web design stuff. So that's HTML and CSS, but programming was not the greatest at it. So I had a developer that I was working with, and this developer, he's a really good guy, but our business was not really a business. We weren't making any money. We didn't have a whole lot of traction other than a few good marketing ploys, which I could get into some other time. But Basically, I was left with a choice because he had to go get a job. I was left with a choice as like, do I go and learn how to build my own web application, or do I try and find somebody else? And I figured it would probably be a good idea that if I wanted to continue down this path of building a web application of some kind, that it would probably be a good idea to know and understand the code. So then I really started diving in deep, and my former partner gave me some suggestions on things that I should look at. And eventually one of his friends introduced me to Django, got really into Django, learned it pretty quickly, was able to rebuild that app. And I'm like, hey, I could do that. Like, and that was awesome. But there wasn't very many good resources out there for other people in my same position to do that. So I was just like, hey, this is awesome. I'm going to teach other people how to do it. And that's what I did. I started a class and then just started teaching other people. This was after using Django for a good while, actually, before I actually launched my first class. But then I had this class, and it just started snowballing from there. And now, almost 3 years later, actually over 3 years later, we've been doing Coding for Entrepreneurs, doing very similar things that we started with at the beginning, because that core concept of doing step-by-step projects, I think, is still very relevant, because it's all about context and how you use all this code, and then showing you how it's done all through the way. That's pretty much how Coding for Entrepreneurs started back in the day. If you want to know more details about that stuff, please let me know, because I'm happy to talk about it. It's a very interesting time in my life, and how everything changed from there. Cool. So back to the questions. Body to PGL. Sounds great. Basic Python to jump into Django, or should I learn something more? So should you know basic Python before you do Django? Well, yes and no. I mean, like, you can definitely learn a lot more about Django without learning anything about Python. In many cases, this has been very successful. Sometimes learning Python first is a really good first step, because then you understand the syntax of Python versus just jumping into writing Django code. Understanding the syntax is fairly basic, and it is something that Sublime Text actually helps a lot with. Sublime Text is the text editor that we use when we're writing our Python code for Django. Because Django is Python. It's not anything different. It's all written in Python. So everything about Django is Python. So that is, so you already know basic Python. Perfect. So if you already know basic Python, jumping into Django is not a big deal. But for everybody else, if you don't know basic Python, it might be a good idea to get a little bit of that under your belt before jumping into Django. But even at the same time, we go step by step. You can compare your code against what our code is, and you can learn a lot there. We do have some basic stuff too on joincfe.com. So there is some basic Python there as well to just get you a better idea of that. Other than that, yeah, guys, if you have any more questions, please ask them now, because like literally going to stop very, very soon. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for watching, guys. This is a lot of fun to do. I definitely enjoy this. It's a little bit later here, so I'm not really used to doing this live event this late, but I definitely wanted to make sure that you guys on the other side of the world know that we know that you're there, or I know that you're there, and I definitely want to be able to show you that we are going to do live events this late for you guys as well. So thanks so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, definitely subscribe on YouTube, joincfe.com/YouTube. That is where we'll do live coding events. Facebook, we just can't do it because it's coming directly from a cell phone. And if you follow us on Facebook, you will definitely get more notifications about the live stuff, because Facebook does that all the time. Yeah, so let's see. Wait. Body 2 PGL. One last question. Okay, I'll answer this for you. So you saw a course 2 days here close to my town. Costs around 1,800 pounds. Is it worth to take it? 1,800 pounds. Is that British pounds? I'm assuming it would be. That's like, what, 3,600 US dollars? Is it worth to take it? I have no idea, man. I don't even know what the course is. I'm assuming it's a Django course. It depends on how you learn. Like when I say like I'm assuming it's an in-person course. If you really thrive in that environment, if you thrive in the school type of environment, yes, I'm assuming you mean Django still. If you thrive in that in-person environment, and also having direct access to somebody that knows this code, and I mean, that might be something that's very, very worth it to you. However, there's a lot of stuff that is way less expensive that you can learn a ton from if you just go through it. So I don't think that 1,800 pounds is unreasonable to take a course, especially from a high-level expert like that. But at the same time, it really depends on what your motivation is. If you have some more time and you can just work through a lot of the videos, I'm going to say go to joincfe.com, because we have a lot of stuff. And I mean, it's if you pay for the year, it's $20 a month, $20 US a month. So there's that. We got another question, Vincent. A lot of good questions today. All right, so what does Python manage.py collect static do? This is completely switching course. The Python manage.py collect static takes your static files that are located in your so you have static files that are in your project, static files being images, JavaScript, or CSS, and it brings those static files to a static file server, which is not your Django server. This is a little bit separate. We definitely talk about that more in depth in the video, but it basically takes you to your static files to, like, if you put it on a CDN network, which is a content delivery network, you put it there. But basically it puts it onto a static file server, which will serve just that information, which is really cool. So that's what collect static does, and Django does that for you. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. Really had a fun time doing this. For the next one, definitely subscribe to those channels or check us out at joincfe.com. Thanks again. Take care.